happy week and happy Thanksgiving, Canada, as we are back here for another episode of the Red Mile Rundown. We are on episode number 5. The season's underway. I'm excited to start talking. And alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Robert Munich. How are we doing, Robert?
What's going on? Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. And oh my God, what a start to the season, hey? This is
it's
insane.
been tremendous. We're recording this after watching a drunk Ottawa Senators versus Los Angeles Kings game where it was 8-7 in overtime. We've had some great action on the weekend, and the Flames, of course, kicking off their season in style with a couple of really high-scoring affairs themselves. A beautiful game the other night just against the Edmonton Oilers' hated rivals. Robert, where should we start with all of this to talk about? We got lots to get into. Where do you want to start here?
Well, I mean, I think you and I have both been, a lot higher on this Flames team compared to, I would probably say, the majority of the fan base and media. But I don't think that even you and I expected a start this good. Like, this has been pretty incredible hockey so far. I mean, the Flames, they scored 16 goals in 3 games. They're 3-0-0. They beat the division champs from last year in Vancouver. They beat the Western Conference champs from last year in Edmonton. And they've done it in pretty impressive fashion. So, I mean, I don't think you could ask for a better start to the season for the Flames. And, it feels like there's a bit of a different feeling around this team this year. I know you and I were kind of texting about that last night, but, it compared to like the last 2 years, it just feels like this team is way more relaxed. There's little to no expectations on them. It seems like they're more comfortable being members of the Calgary Flames. Yeah. And they just seem like a more cohesive team this year compared to years past. Because today when I was doing my prep for this, I was just kind of reminiscing, and I was thinking about, so like the 22-23 season, that was the first year of Huberdeau, Weegar, Kadri. There were a ton of distractions around that season, whether it was all the changes, no more Gaudreau and Tkachuk, your 2 best players. Daryl Sutter, he was a bit of a news story. It seemed like every month with his, with his Jonathan Huberdeau take a shit comment, and is Jacob Pelche, what's his number, and the players just not liking him. So that season was no fun, and it was a mess. And then last season, the only discussion around the team was who's going to stay and who's going to go, and it was all about trades. And like, imagine being in a professional dressing room, and that's like the only discussion going on around your team. Like, that would be brutal. It'd be hard to play hockey doing that. So yeah, it just feels like there's like a different feeling around this team this year, which is great. Are you kind of getting the same vibes?
I am, and there's 2 things that stick out for me when talking about the start to this season, about how nice it is around the Flames. Is there's 2 quotes that I can fall back on, and think about it. Craig Conroy at the beginning of the summer, and this is a paraphrasing, I don't have the exact quote, was talking about how he just wanted to have a quiet summer and calm the waters down around the Calgary Flames, and he absolutely did that. He did a couple of nice signings to start the summer, and then let everything flow into camp nicely without any drama. And then Nazem Kadri, really early, day 1 of training camp, was like, let's just cool it on this will he, won't he stay stuff, which really, again, spoke to, we don't want the drama. A nice, quiet off-season, nice, quiet start to the season so that we can just show up and play hockey, and that their play has reflected that. One thing in these first 3 games that I will say is the Flames are committed to compete. And what I mean by that is they're just here to play hockey and to win hockey games and to be a hardworking team. Ryan Huska wants them to be a hardworking team, and it shows. And I think it all stems from Craig Conroy making a conscious decision in that offseason. We need to have a quiet offseason and just cool the waters around the Calgary Flames. And they've been successful at doing that, and it shows with the results here. I'm really excited for what we've seen so far from the Flames and how they've reacted to that, and how they've been able to just, hey, this isn't about who's not here anymore. This isn't about a trade that happened 2 seasons ago. This is about the guys here in this room, and we're going to go out and play hockey, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, 100%. And it all kind of starts with that leadership group. So, you pointed out Nazem Kadri there, but to start this season, like a guy like Rasmus Anderson has been fantastic, and he's also been great in the media. Jonathan Huberdeau has led the charge a little bit. Mackenzie Weegar. Like, it's just that, even like, I think Michael Backlund, Blake Coleman have had a decent start, especially defensively. So like that whole leadership group is leading things this year, and all those guys are committed to this team. They're all under contract. They all said that they want to stay, which is fantastic. And I think you can tell that's making a big difference early on in the season so far. And it's finally nice to have positive storylines to talk about. because all like I mean, I don't know about you, but like last season, I was getting so sick and tired of hearing like every single episode of any Flames podcast. It was just all about trades. Where's Hanifin going to go?
Mhm.
Where's Tanev going to go? Where's Lindholm going to go? That was really annoying, and you could even just tell like it was really wearing on the players last year. Like they look like a miserable hockey team. Like Elias Lindholm was miserable last season. Markstrom was miserable.
Yeah.
You know, Nikita Zadorov was completely miserable, and I think that kind of started to like leak into the group as a whole last season, and that has just completely changed, which is fantastic. So I think Flames fans are really excited about the start of the year, which is awesome. But one thing that just kind of came to mind, I'm curious to get your thoughts on it.
Yep.
Um, how should Flames fans feel about the start of the season? Because you know they're 3-0, they're playing great hockey, but they're still kind of in a rebuild, and there's that whole first round pick stipulation with Montreal.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, like how do you think people should feel about this team so far? Because like I'm getting a lot of mentions on my Twitter of people saying like stop winning games, like please stop because of the whole draft pick thing. But at the same time, it's also a lot of fun. So it's just a really weird position Flames fans are in right now.
It's extremely weird position to be in, and I'll go about it and thinking how I think about it. And if people agree with me, that's fine. If they don't, that's also fine. One thing these players keep talking about is they keep it positive in their media conversations. They keep directing it to how the on ice is going to be a good product and we're going to be a competitive team. And I think that the skill at the end of the day will kind of level out with these wins versus losses here. A really good start, and they found ways to be successful early here, and we should be excited about this. I don't get those who bemoan wins when you're cheering for a hockey team. It's just not how I roll personally. But you need to have a positive feeling around this team that there's a direction here, and we're seeing a direction here with this team, with the way Huska's teaching and coaching this team, the leadership pulling these guys along. These kids, we're seeing like guys like Honzek come along very, very well in their progression, and that's what Flame fans should be excited about, in my opinion. The positiveness around the Flames is heading in the right direction. I, I think at the end of the day that the skill or lack thereof and depth of this roster might catch up them in some of these hockey games, and they're going to have games where they're not going to get the bounces like they have been getting in Vancouver. They got some bounces in that game to tie that one up and send it to overtime. You got to continue to this team. You can't tell teams not to win hockey games, and so cheering against a win is just weird for me. But I understand where Flames fans are coming from, where they don't want to finish 11th or 12th and give that draft pick up to Florida, or it just, or sorry, to Montreal from Florida or wherever it was.
Yeah.
But be positive in knowing that this team is headed in the right direction, and enjoy it while we can enjoy it. You can enjoy watching this team compete and be competitive versus others, but I definitely get that. Oh, I don't want to lose that draft pick for nothing. But if they're not going to be a bottom 10 team and they're going to be a playoff team, do you really like? It's really one or the other. Of you want to be happy, but at the same time, you want your team to be in the playoffs. So how do you go about that?
Yeah.
And we'll see what Craig Conroy does here. Remember, there's still a long ways to go in this season. They still have guys they can trade away this season. So there's still a long way to go here. It's early. It's 3 games in, 3 really good, fun hockey games into the season, but a long way to go still here.
Yeah, I agree with you, and like I'm not going to tell fans what to think.
Agreed.
I that's not our business. You're allowed to think whatever you want to think, but I think the way I'm kind of approaching it this year is number one, just have fun with it, even if they are like a good team and they do compete for a wild card spot. You know, despite that whole first round pick thing, just have fun with it. Enjoy the hockey because we can't control what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why get super upset over something that you can't control? I'd say just kind of enjoy it while you can. And then number two, it's I think you just have to trust that Craig Conroy and the management team have the long-term interests of the Flames at heart. You hope that we don't run into like another 2014-15 situation where the Flames make the playoffs and have that kind of crazy run and they essentially end the rebuild after that. You just hope that Craig Conroy learned from that experience and has the long term in mind. So I would just say, yeah, just have fun and trust that Connie knows what he's doing here. Although it is a little worrisome to maybe there's going to be some pressure from ownership if they do end up having a good season, maybe they're going to say, hey, we gotta push and have a playoff team next year too, kind of like they did in 14-15. But like I said, you can't really worry about that so far. But it's been
sorry to jump in there. Just There's one thing that Craig Conroy's done since he's been in charge here, and that's he has his vision, and he's done everything to work towards that vision, and he's been honest about it. He wants to play the kids. The kids are playing. He has a long-term vision, and we're seeing him slowly put that in place. And so I think to not saying anyone is, but to panic and jump off the boat so early because they've won 3 games, a little premature for me. But it's all about the process. You got to trust that Craig Conroy's not going to let it go off the rails one way or the other, and that's going to stick to the plan that he has put in place. And whether that is a trade down the line, say Kuzmenko somewhere else for some players or prospects, or re-signing of Kuzmenko if that's the way he wants to go, it's all part of the vision, and we just got to let it play out a little bit. So enjoy. I'm with you on that one, Robert. Enjoy the season. Enjoy what we're seeing so far from the Flames.
And part of that vision, you just mentioned that there was young players, and we're seeing some of those young players play really well right now. So why don't we dive into the start of the season for Martin Pospisil and Connor Zary? I mean, those two guys, they come in last year after probably the worst start to a Calgary Flames season I've ever seen. Was the beginning of last year in October, but they come in and they play really well last year, and it looks like they've taken another step this year. I guess what have you seen from Pospisil and Zary so far this season?
They've both taken on different roles this year, right? Coming into the season as well. And they've done a little bit more. Going from winger to center in the National Hockey League isn't an easy task, but you saw Martin Pospisil, each period we watched him get stronger in that position. And you could argue that Huberdeau, Pospisil, Mantha line has been one of the best of the lines from the Calgary Flames through the first 3 games here. And I think Pospisil's slowly learning to play a center and be that guy that's responsible both ends of the ice for those 2 guys. And we've seen Connor Zary be put with 2 really highly effective playmakers and 2-way forwards in this lineup with Backlund and Coleman. That's not an easy task to play with those guys and to be as effective as those guys. And both these guys are excelling in those roles. It goes to show the faith that the organization has in these players, but then it also goes the other way around, where it shows that these players are willing and able to step up and do more and be better at their given craft. They did not waste their offseason, and it shows in this preseason and into the beginning of the season here, where these 2 guys have just said, this is what I've been asked to do. I'm going to go be the best that I can be at it and excel at it. I think Connor Zary has been one of the best, if not the best forward on the Flames so far to start this season. Just absolutely love what he's done for this team. And like I said, with Martin Pospisil, it's not easy to play center, but he's making it seem easy just by his progression and just being able to do what he's been asked to do and learn and be coachable. It's absolutely awesome to watch these kids play.
Oh, for sure. And the nice thing about Pospisil too is that he's not losing that physicality to his game, because he's taken on more responsibility at center. Like we saw last night against the Edmonton Oilers, he was once again just an absolute menace out there. Like he went after McDavid a few times. He crushed Vasily Podkolzin into the boards. It was kind of from behind, a little dirty, but that's just the way Martin Pospisil plays hockey, and that hasn't changed ever since moving to center, which is awesome. And you can tell, like him, Huberdeau, and Mantha, like there's a bit of a connection there. Like they look really good. I know, like last night on the 2-1 Mantha goal, that line, they dominated for like about a minute. Like they were just working the Edmonton Oilers, making just incredible passes all throughout the offensive zone, and then it led to that Anthony Mantha goal. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but I think Martin Pospisil's been a big reason as to why Huberdeau's got off to such a good start. He's making a lot of plays to Huberdeau. I believe he's assisted on 2 of Huberdeau's goals. He assisted on Mantha's goal last night. Like that line has been really good. And I think Pospisil's, he's pretty much the driving force for those guys. And then when it comes to Connor Zary, I feel the exact same way. To me, he just looks like a faster, more confident version of the player that he was last year. Yeah. Like the puck, it seems like the puck follows him. The puck is on his stick like all the time when he's on the ice. Him, Backlund, and Coleman are playing pretty well 5-on-5. Zary's look good on the power play, and this is like a big step in the right direction for both these players' development. So I'm very happy with what I'm seeing from those 2 players so far.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with more there. Pospisil's driving that line really well. He's pulling those 2 along on that line, pulling him into the fight, pulling him into the conversation, and it's paying off because Huberdeau's just said, all right, if this kid's willing to go in there and do the dirty work for me, I'll clean up for him. And that's exactly what he's been doing. And Mantha's had, in my opinion, played about 3 different style of hockey games in the 3 games we've seen so far this year. Yeah. But he's been pulled into that conversation as well, pulled into the fight that Pospisil is making them go into. And Connor Zary's like, okay, you want me to do this? Let's go do this. You want me to score? I'll go score. And it's just been absolutely phenomenal to watch these guys grow. And I just wonder how much more we can see from these guys, because I think that there's a lot more to give as these guys continue to learn. You hear of the sophomore slump. We're not seeing that from either of these guys so far this season, and hopefully we don't see a wall being hit by either of these guys, because what we're seeing is exactly what you wanted to see from your young kids. Awesome progression from both of them.
Yeah, and like Pospisi's got 5 points in his first 3 games. Zary 4 points in his first 3 games. They've been put out in 3-on-3 overtime together, which is I don't think is something that we saw at all last season.
Yeah,
and they look dynamic together against Vancouver. So I'm excited to see how these guys continue to progress. I mean, obviously they're not going to be point per game players this year, but if Pospisil can push 40, 50 points, if Zary can push 50, 60, that's going to be a major difference for this team this year.
absolutely.
You mentioned one thing that's kind of interesting there. We're kind of getting like the whole Anthony Mantha experience right now.
Yes.
You had said that we've seen 3 different versions of him, and I'm like, that's so bang on, because in game 1 he went into beast mode. Like
yes.
he was an animal in that game, and you watch that game and you're just thinking to yourself, why can't this guy play like this all the time? He would literally be like a $7-8 million player if he had played like that all the time. And then I found against Philly on Saturday he was a bit of a non-factor that night. And then last night in Edmonton he played more of like a skill game, where he was moving the puck really well. He got some good shots off and scored that goal. So yeah, I thought when you said that about Anthony Mantha, I just thought that was really interesting, because we really are getting the full experience on that guy right now. Hey,
it's insane, because this guy could be an 8x8 player, like 8-year deal, $8 million a year, and guys shouldn't blink, because you watch that shot, and we've seen that shot. It looks tremendous. But then you see him against Philly, and you're like, do you have like lead skates on today, man? Like what's going on here? I don't see it in the play. And then he goes out last night and he just plays a different style of hockey game, just finds some some quiet areas, some soft areas, and was very effective. And you're just like, what are you as a hockey player? What's your role? What can you do? And he just shows you different ways of playing this hockey game. It's like, dude, just please be consistent. And that's what I'm hoping for now, is maybe he can find a little consistency here with Pospisil, with Huberdeau, and this line can continue to roll how we see it. But man, Anthony Mantha giving you the full experience, because this guy's good when he wants to be, and that's the trick, is you gotta want it more.
yeah, I mean, and like how many guys in the NHL have his skill set? Like a guy who's like 6'5", 6'6", he's like 230 pounds. He's just an absolute animal, and he's got a tremendous set of hands and shot. Like everybody around the league would kill to have that skill set. So I'm with you. I hope we start to see a little more consistency from him, because he could actually end up being a really good player. And I don't know if it makes sense. Like if he does have a really good season, I don't know if it makes sense to sign him. But the Flames could end up getting a lot for him in a trade. The other guy on that
trade fodder.
Like I like how we were just talking about how it's so nice to not talk about trades, and now 20 minutes in the episode we're talking about trades.
Just one trade. That's it.
The other guy on that line, though, is Jonathan Huberdeau. And honestly, coming in the season, I had absolutely no idea what to expect from him. Mm-hmm. But so far, so good. I mean, this is probably the best he's looked to start a season since joining the Flames. What have you liked from his game so far?
I like that he apparently listens to the Red Mile Rundown, because back-to-back episodes, I kind of did a little bit of a rant on Huberdeau and about how it's time for him to step up, time for him to show us some stuff, time for him to take a little bit of onus on this $10+ million contract that he has. And we've seen exactly that. This is the best Huberdeau's looked since he's left Florida, and it's not even a question in my eyes. He's more engaged, it seems. He's more confident. You watch him in the media, he's a lot more calm, answering questions from whoever's asking them. He looks more of a leader this year as well, and he looks more willing to do more for his teammates. And that, for me, is equaling up to a better Johnny Huberdeau. And I love it. I love what we're seeing from him. He's more engaged in every aspect of this hockey game. And he's not doing these, I need to go between 3 people's feet type passes. He just simplified the game and is playing the game. And I'm going to credit Mountain Pospisil again for helping him out with that, because I think you're spot on when you said he was a big factor in that, because I think he is. But this is what Huberdeau needs to do to be successful. Now, I don't suspect we're going to see a point per game from Huberdeau. I'm still not there yet, but this is an absolutely picture perfect start from this guy. Hopefully we get to see a lot more of it.
100%. And the thing I like from Huberdeau so far is all three of his goals that he scored have come like a foot or two away from the crease.
Yes.
It's he's going to the net, he's going to the dirty areas. It's something that he really wasn't doing in his first 2 years in Calgary, and he's just kind of he's scoring like those grinder kind of scrappy goals, which is great to see. And yeah, I mean he's got 5 points in his first 3 games so far. Last season, it took him 9 games to get to 5 points, and he's already got there in 3. I'm kind of with you. It almost just like looks like kind of the weight of the world is off his shoulders. It feels like there's like pretty much no expectations on the guy this season, mainly because the performances he's had the first 2 years and the fact that the Flames aren't considered a playoff team this year. I think that's just taken all the expectations off of him. And now, like from a Flames fan perspective, it just kind of feels like anytime that he gets points, it's kind of like an added bonus because we've expected so little of him over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see him. He just seems like looser. He's smiling a lot more. It looks like he's having a lot more fun with his teammates.
Yeah.
And Huberdeau looks like the kind of guy who, in order to play good hockey, like he needs to be confident and he needs to be having fun and having that swagger. And it looks like he's kind of slowly starting to pick that up again this year. And I thought you made a good point there. He's not doing those like 360, no look passes through the neutral zone. He's not doing like those like little like between the legs or drop passes to nobody. It just seems like he's playing like a way more simple game so far this year, and I think that's exactly what the Flames need from him. And it's good to see him, Mantha, and Pospisil have some chemistry. And I know I don't know if I mentioned on the show, but I've tweeted it out a bunch that I just think Huberdeau and Mantha in particular, if those two guys can have a good year, that propels the Flames into being like a potential wild card team.
Yep.
Because both their offensive ceilings are pretty high. Like Huberdeau, like he could still be a point per game player. He's got the skill set to do it. Anthony Mantha could be like a 25, 30 goal scorer. If you get that from your third line or your second line, whatever you want to call them, that could literally propel them into a wild card position.
If you think about Anthony Mantha playing to the back of his hockey card, what his stats say he can do, you're looking at a 30, 35 goal scorer on the high end. And you look at Huberdeau and a guy who can do that same thing on the back of his hockey card and live up to those standards. You're looking at a guy who can get himself 50, 55 assists a year. And together with a guy who's going to go to the net in the middle and a guy who's going to clean up the slop in the middle, that's the recipe to have a very successful season. And that in and of itself might propel the Flames to be a competitive hockey team. You have that line going and that line producing, it's an almost limitless level that line can get to if they want to perform. The trick is, can we see the consistency from Mantha? Can Huberdeau keep up the pace? And does Pospisil continue to progress as a centerman? Lots of questions, lots of what ifs, but you can't help but smile and be excited about the upside that this line does possess and what Jonathan Huberdeau is doing. And full credit to the guy because he is playing like there's absolutely zero pressure. Maybe Florida winning last year and actually lifting the Stanley Cup puts that out of his mind for now, and he doesn't have to be compared to Kachuk anymore, and he can just go play hockey because right now that's what he's playing like. There's no expectations, no pressure, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, and like you take a look at the other two forward lines. You got the Kadri Kuzmenko duo, and then either Honzek and then Sharangovich when he comes back. Like what you're going to get from them. You're going to get some scoring. You're going to get some dynamic offensive play.
Yep.
Backlund, Coleman, and then Zary or whoever else will be on that wing. You're going to get great shutdown minutes from them. They're going to produce the odd goal, but they're going to dominate when it comes to shots and shot attempts. They're going to outscore their opposition. So you have two like good solid lines, and then it's just that wild card line with Huberdeau, Mantha, Pospisil. And if they continue to score at this rate, like watch out. The Flames could be a pretty decent team this year.
Yes.
We talked a lot about the forwards so far, but why don't we dive into the defense a little bit? It's been a pretty strong start to the season from some of the Flames defensemen. Who stood out to you so far, and who are some of the guys that you've liked?
Well, I won't steal your guys because I know what you want to talk about there, but I want to talk about Rasmus Andersson. A lot of people were tweeting yesterday about his new goal celebration, how he stares down the opposing fans.
That's
absolutely
awesome.
Love it. Rasmus Andersson has brought almost a snarl, another level to his snarl in his game, and it's showing in everything this guy is doing. He looks lighter on his feet. He looks more committed to being a good defenseman. He's probably heard a lot of the rumors of people trying to ship him out of town if you speak about trade talks. I love this guy, and I love what he's doing for the Flames on the back end. And because he is able to anchor his own pair, and he's excelling at it, and he's having a really good game, I think Ball's played very well with Rasmus Anderson, and he's learned to play together. It's allowing Uyghur to anchor a second pair and allowing this Flames defense that looked a little shaky to start the year on paper have a bit of depth to it and allow these guys to anchor two separate pairs, allow the Flames to maybe slot these guys better. And it's absolutely making this Flames team a lot tougher to play on the back end than I thought going into this season. I've loved Rasmus Anderson, what he's brought, the leadership he's brought. I love what Mackenzie Weegar is doing, scoring goals, being that guy on the back end. And I'm pleasantly surprised overall from Manoff and about what he's been able to do with Mackenzie Weegar. Top four guys right now are really bringing it, and it's allowing it to have a lot of depth to the back end. I love it. I won't steal your thunder because I know you want to talk about the depth guys here, but Bean and Pahal have also really done a really good job here of being part of the solution on that back end for the Flames.
Yeah, you mentioned how good Rasmus Anderson's been. Like, you could make an argument he's been the Flames' best player to start the season. He's got 5 points in his first 3 games. When he's on the ice at 5-on-5, the Flames have outscored their opposition 7-1. 7-1 in 3 games. With him and Ball on the ice, I believe they've outscored their opposition 6-2. So I mean, they've been really good as a pair so far. I think they're like a really good mix because you got Anderson, who's more of like an offensive minded guy. He's like a really good playmaker. He's good at carrying the puck, and then you got Balls, that big shutdown defensive defenseman. And I think that they've been really good together. They've been the Flames' best pair, both by the eye test and the numbers. I was doing some digging just on the numbers in the first 3 games on the defense pairings, and so far, and I think my eye test would agree with this, is that I actually think Uyghur and Miramanov at 5-on-5 have kind of struggled a little bit so far this year. They've been on the ice at 5-on-5 here. I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up some numbers here. Their expected goals as a pairing is below 40%. It's at 39. They haven't been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal for the Flames this year. So, you know, the Flames have scored 10 goals of 5-on-5, 9 goals of 5-on-5. They haven't been on the ice for one of them. They've been outscored 1-0. And the Flames are getting like pretty badly outchanced and outshot attempted with those two on the ice. So I think I'd like to see a little more chemistry from those two. I don't think it's necessarily Uyghur that's the issue. I haven't been a huge fan of Miranov's game so far this year. I find he just looks like he's just a little slow, a little behind the play, both with the skating and decision making. So I'd like to see a little bit more to that pairing. But one guy who I think has been excellent so far, I mean, he's not playing a big role, but it's Braden Pahal. So I mean, he's like, actually, I mean, he's kind of like the de facto number 5 now because they sat Jake Bean. So Pahal is your number 5 right now. And I think he's been rock solid to start this season. The Flames, they're significantly out chancing their opposition at 5-on-5 when he's on the ice. He's played the 3rd most minutes on the penalty kill on defense, just behind Ball and Anderson. And I think he's been really good there. He's moving the puck pretty well. He's getting shots on net. Like, for a guy that they picked up off of waivers last season and who came into the year as a number 6, maybe number 7 guy, you know, he's elevated himself to being the anchor on that 3rd pair. And I think that's fantastic. And I know FlamesNation.ca, Mike Gold wrote a great article about Braden Pahal. So you guys should check that out if you want a little more context on it. But I've really liked his game. I've liked Kevin Ball and Rasmus Anderson. I think those 3 have been really, really solid to start the season.
It's funny, you go back to preseason and during the offseason, I don't remember seeing Braden Pahal on anyone's mock lineup, not a single one. I cannot recall one. And you look back on it, people are calling for this guy, whatever, he's AHL guy, he's whatever. And he's really put himself in the conversation of he might be pushing himself for a top 4 spot. If Miramanov struggles more and if he continues to progress here, he might get an opportunity to play higher in the lineup. I love him where he's at in this lineup and what he's doing for the Flames. You mentioned his penalty kill numbers. what he's been doing for the Flames there. He's averaging just over 16 minutes a night, and you're getting good minutes from a third pair guy like that. It doesn't matter if it's Bean or if it's Barry or even Hanley comes in the lineup to play with this guy. You know that what you're going to get from Pahal, and he's been responsible in those. And now he has respect of the coach and the trust of the coach, and that's huge for the bottom part of your defensive group because everyone knows injuries are going to eventually happen. You're going to need 7 or 8 defensemen. If you have a guy playing at the bottom of your roster like Pahal is, it really puts your mind at ease a lot more if you have to rely on him to do a little bit more in the lineup. He's been tremendous. Want to go back to Anderson and Ball for a quick second because it's interesting to watch Ball over the first few games here as this is his training camp and his preseason. He played one preseason game because he was injured, and it's nice to see the progression from his game as well. I think he's been getting stronger, and I think a lot of that has to do with Anderson taking a lot of the pressure away from Ball and allowing Ball to just incorporate his game into the style that the Flames want to play, and that's a really effective duo together. Love to see more of them as well. Let them continue to progress and to play well, and let's hope that the good vibes that Uyghur's putting out there on the power play as well continue because he's been terrific for that as well. So lots to love about the Flames defensive group.
Yeah, and even I know we haven't really talked about them, but even Jake Bean and Tyson Barrie have looked good in their limited time as well.
Yeah.
I especially Tyson Barrie last night. I actually thought he was really solid for the Flames. I thought he looked half decent on the power play, and at 5-on-5, I mean, I don't really think the Oilers took advantage of him at all because a lot of the talk heading into the season was that Barry is an offensive specialist and he's he's only going to get time on the power play. But I thought he was really good at 5-on-5, and I think Jake Bean's been pretty solid there too.
You didn't hear anything negative about Barry. You didn't hear about him. And when you're in your defensive zone and you're not hearing about your defenseman, that's probably a good thing. A quiet game from Barry on the score sheet. But he played over 14 minutes. He was good in what he was asked to do, and he was not caved in by any Oiler in that hockey game. I think he was solid along Pahal. And when you have two guys that can play alongside one another and they look good doing it, it's awesome. And it's very good. Good depth for the Flames to have. I'd like to see more of Barry, see what he can do on the power play as well for the Flames, but really good start for him in his Flames career.
Yeah, and he played his offside yesterday, which was slightly a concern for me heading into the game, but I thought he handled himself really well. So good on Tyson, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if we see him in the lineup again against Chicago because I don't think they're not the biggest, most difficult team to play against. I think they're a lot more kind of a skill team, skill in quotation marks. So I bet you Barry probably gets the start on Tuesday. One guy we haven't talked about at all yet is Sam Honzek. So he's played in his first 3 NHL games. What have you made of his start to his NHL career so far?
Lots to like, but then you also notice that he is still just a teenager as well in some of these hockey games. I didn't particularly overly enjoy him in the second game of the season. I thought he was only okay, but he was good last night against the Oilers when given the opportunity here. You can see that he's trying to still process the game. That's what I'm trying to spit out here. You can tell he's trying to process the game at a higher level and a faster level, and you can tell that he's a rookie. But when he gets these opportunities around the net, you're surprised he hasn't scored a goal by the way he looks at times in this league. So it is a learning curve for Honzek, but overall, I think he's done fairly well for what he's been asked to do. Unlucky to maybe score a goal yet so far. He's been all around it, and I just wanted him to speed up his thinking a little bit. If I'm going to be critical of his game in any way, just speed up your thinking a little bit and make sure you're relying on the veterans you're playing with. Be alongside Nazem Kadri, listen to Kuzmenko, and continue to soak up this experience. Overall here, he's fared fairly well for what he is, and what he's been asked to do here. It's not easy to jump into the National Hockey League, let alone be thrown alongside Nazem Kadri and Kuzmenko, who have really good chemistry, and be told, hey, go play with these guys and let's see what you've got, kid. But he's done pretty good for himself. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right. He has been put in a pretty difficult position, but I think he's been okay so far. I mean, I thought last night against Edmonton was by far his best game so far this season.
Yeah.
He had 3 or 4 chances to score. He was in around the net, making things happen. I thought he was doing a good job along the boards, making plays and using his size to his advantage. So I think he's been solid. His first 2 games, I thought he was a little quiet. Didn't really get much of a chance to play against Vancouver because they were on the penalty kill so much. And I think when when they were trying to make their comeback there. He wasn't playing a whole heck of a lot, but I like the progression that I'm seeing from him. You can tell like he's got an NHL skill set, right? Like
Yes.
he's got the speed, he's got the size. You can tell he's got some half decent hands. The shot looks like it's there. So, for a 19-year-old, one of the youngest players in the NHL, I think he's doing pretty good so far. But I think like the main thing with Honzek for me is just you just got to be patient with the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not really putting much or any stock into his performances in like his first probably like 10 or so NHL games because he's just getting used to it. Like he's getting used to the speed, he's getting used to the physicality, just the skill set of his opposition. I mean, he's going from the Vancouver Giants, going from the WHL to the NHL is a gigantic leap,
Yeah.
especially when you had a pretty disastrous injury riddled season last year. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I just say be patient with the guy. You can tell like there's definitely something there, and it's a huge boon for the Calgary Flames for him to become a top 9 forward because that draft was absolutely stacked that he was picked in. So the Flames needed to hit on that pick, and right now it's looking like they did a good job.
Yep.
So I think they got to be pretty happy with that. The one
Yep.
thing I was going to ask you, that kind of popped in my head here is, what do you think the Flames are going to do when Sharangovich comes back? Because he is week to week, so I'm going to assume that he's probably going to be back within the next week or two. What do you think is going to happen to the Flames lineup when he does return from injury?
I'll take the unpopular opinion because I know how Flame fans feel about Honzek. I think this is the opportunity to send him to the AHL, and not as a punishment. As a here's your taste of the National Hockey League. You've done really well in yourself, but we need you to play games and we need you to play minutes and we need you to continue to progress. So go down to the AHL for a little bit here and play high leverage minutes, play power play time, continue to develop your game, and you'll be back in the National Hockey League. And leave that carrot out there for him that he'll be one of the first guys, if not the first guy called up when there's another injury to the lineup. I think that's best for Honzek because you've seen his usage when the Flames are behind or have to chase a little bit. He's not used as much. Where you want to see this guy play, and if he's not going to play consistently, put him in the AHL. If you want to continue to progress this guy, you're gonna have to do some line shuffling with Sharangovich coming back. And do you really want to mess with all of these lines that are rolling right now? I think the easiest thing and the best thing for the Flames to do right here is Honzek go play in the American Hockey League with the Wranglers. Doesn't need waivers. And it's not a punishment. Like I said, this is hey, you've done really well, kid. Continue to progress here, and you're going to be back with us sooner than later. But we just need you to play hockey games consistently because we also need Sharangovich to play, and you need Sharangovich to get up to speed in a hurry as well.
I was hoping you actually had a different answer because I have the exact same one. I completely agree with you.
Well, the other way of going about it is you shuffle a bunch of things around, and who do you put on that fourth line then from the top 9? Like, take somebody else out of that top 9. That's my question to fans.
Yeah, I mean, like coming into this season, I know my big thing was putting Pospisil as the fourth line center, but after the start to the season he's had, like you literally can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you're right, like you're not touching the other lines. Every forward line has been really good to start this season. So I'm with you. I would do the exact same thing. I think it's best for Sam Honzek to go back to the AHL instead of playing on the fourth line or instead of being a healthy scratch every now and then. I don't think it makes sense for him and his development to play in that role as a 19-year-old. I would like to see him go down to the AHL and play first or second line minutes, first power play, start to develop and do that. And then it kind of that kind of brings me to Matt Coronado. When Sharangovich comes back, I would also be tempted to send him down to the American League as well, because the exact same thing with Sharangovich. I just don't think there's a point in keeping Coronado in the press box or playing him for 10 minutes on a fourth line, even if he is on like a second power play unit. Second power play units don't get a ton of ice time. So I once Sharangovich comes back, I think what I would do is I would send both Coronado and Honzek down to the American League. They could probably play potentially on the same line together with like Sam Morton down the middle or something like that. Like they could really dominate the AHL. And then, maybe you could bring up a guy like Dryden Hunt to be your extra forward, because it really doesn't matter if he's in the press box or if he plays every now and then. He's the type of veteran where, he is the player that he is. He doesn't need that time to develop. and then you could rotate him and Adam Klapka in on that fourth line, depending on who your opponent is. So when Sharangovich does come back, the Flames they're gonna have to make some pretty difficult decisions here. But if I were them, I think I would go down the road of both Coronado and Honzek in the AHL.
Fourth line Coronado never makes sense to me, has never made sense to me. It showed last night in Edmonton. His 10 minutes were very unnoticeable 10 minutes for me. This guy needs to play. This guy needs to play like much like Honzek does. Needs to play a lot of minutes, high leverage minutes. There's no harm in putting him in the American Hockey League. It makes no sense for me to have him where he is right now. I never would have had him up, to be honest, to start the season. I would have gone to the American Hockey League right away, and you bring up your Kirkland or your Hunt or even your Dewar, whoever you deem to be your 13th forward, to sit there in the press box and rotate in and out. For me, you called it a hard decision. For me, it's a pretty easy decision, honestly, to put Honzek and Coronado in the American Hockey League. Best for their development, best for the player, best for the long term of the Calgary Flames as well, because you don't want these guys sitting and watching all the time. They need to play. Let Dryden Hunt or Rooney, when he's back and healthy, watch from the press box. Let these kids play. That's where I'm at. I'm with you on that. Coronado, he really didn't do a lot for me in Edmonton last night. It's a little disappointing that he didn't take an opportunity, but then you realize, well, that was a fourth line role that he was asked to do, and he's not Adam Klapka. He's not Ryan Lomberg. He doesn't play that style of hockey game. A little unfair to the kid, in my opinion. Put him in the American Hockey League and let him flourish down there for a while.
Yeah, be patient with him too. And
100%.
At some point this season, there's going to be more injuries. At some point, probably Amantha or Kuzmenko or both are going to get traded. There's going to be time to get both these guys back into the top 9. So I'm really not too worried about it if you end up setting them down right now. Like you said, I think it's probably the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Easily.
One other thing I thought we could touch on today, maybe to finish off the show, is I put out a tweet the other day just kind of talking about how the Flames are making some off-ice improvements. And it just seems like they're becoming more of a modern franchise. So in the spring, they announced that John Bean had stepped down as president and CEO of CSEC, and they ended up hiring Robert Hayes as CEO and a guy named Lorenzo DeChico as their chief operating officer. And it just feels like ever since that they've made that move, they've been doing a really good job of doing a better job connecting with their fans and becoming a more modern franchise. Like, I just kind of wanted to shout those things out. So like some of the examples that I've seen from a fan perspective so far is one is the training camp documentary they did called The Chase. And I know you've seen all 3 episodes. They did a phenomenal job with that. Like I was captivated every single episode. I thought it was so good. The access they got was incredible. Storylines that they got were good. The players were excellent. Like Devin Cooley's segment was awesome. Klapka was great. Getting behind the scenes and seeing the meetings when the rookies were getting sent back to their junior teams, I thought was fascinating. And this is something that the Calgary Flames have literally never done before. They never do this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden that's kind of starting to change. And then even like for the home opener the other night, they do that red carpet arrival, which is like awesome for the fans. So, players come out, they're in their suits and they're giving autographs, they're taking photos, they're giving high fives. Like how great is that for like season ticket holders and for kids? And like, just like, it's like little ideas like that. They got the new scoreboard in there now. I don't know how much that has to do with the change in leadership, but I found like their social media has kind of improved a little bit more, especially like their TikTok. They're talking about a Harvey 2.0, which who knows what that means, but it just kind of sounds like it's like a more entertaining version of Harvey. Like he rappelled from the ceiling the other night. Like, I just think like they're doing such a good job with kind of modernizing the way they approach fan engagement. I just think it's really great. And then finally, I know this, we actually haven't talked about it yet on the show yet, but also you have to give them kudos and a shout out for the way that they've handled this whole Johnny Gaudreau situation. They've handled it with the utmost class and professionalism that you could expect from a team when they're going through such like a difficult situation like this. But between the tribute out front of the Saddle Dome, the candlelit vigil, all the stuff they've done on social media, the tribute they did for him before the home opener, like they've done such a really good job, classy job, and just wanted to kind of give them credit. And from your perspective, are you kind of seeing the same thing from them in terms of like off ice improvements?
I look at the what the front office has done for the Calgary Flames, much like I look at Huberdeau's start to this season. Things have just calmed down around this organization. They've seemed to have less pressure around them to try to be this, you know, franchise of how they, try to pigeon themselves into the playoffs. They've kind of taken a step back and said, what can we do to better not only the on ice product, but outside the off ice stuff? And I agree with a lot of what you said there. Most everything what you said there, actually. It's just these guys have taken a step back and they said, we need to make sure that we're engaged with our fans. We need to make sure that our fans enjoy this. They realize that a rebuild is not what everybody wants in the fan base, and you still have to be very interactive with those fans as to not lose those fans. And so things like this documentary that they're doing is absolutely the way to go about doing stuff like this. And I love the job that they've done, and they've been respectful in how they've dealt with a lot of this thing. It was not an easy off season in the sense of losing Johnny Gaudreau. We know that he's wasn't a current member of the Calgary Flames when this tragedy struck, but this organization approached it as they just lost a family member. It didn't matter what jersey he was wearing anymore. It didn't matter how he left or why he left or any of that. None of that mattered. What matters is the organization reaching out to the Gaudreau family and showing them the love and the respect. And I don't want to sound bad about other people. I don't know if we get that type in the past from other guys that have ran this organization from the top. And I don't know if we see that every year from these guys, but we see that now. We see this team approach these situations as you're one of us. We are a family. We are together and all these type of things. And from the vigil that they had to this documentary to everything that they've done this offseason has really put this organization in a different light for myself here. A lot of respect for these guys and what they've done behind the scenes and helping one another progress, not only the on ice product, but the off ice product. And it's absolutely heartwarming to see that from this organization and to see the turnabout and the change of attitude. Let's be honest here. The change of attitude we've seen from some of these guys that are leading the way at the top. It's no longer an old man club that we've seen around the National Hockey League. This is a family environment, and they're showing it, and they're inviting us into it, and it's absolutely amazing to watch the Flames do this kind of thing. And it makes you excited to watch this team. It makes you excited to spend your dollars on this team. It makes you excited to be part of the Calgary. I don't live in Calgary myself, but I feel like I'm part of that community because this team has invited me in, and I love it. Absolutely love it. And they've done class all year, all off season into this season, and just wanted to send my condolences on the show here. We haven't done this yet. We're just sending my condolences to the Gaudreau family. Watching Guy Gaudreau in that message that they sent to the Flames and the fans, my heart broke all over again for him. As a father, couldn't imagine what he's going through. That's such a strong family, and my heart goes to them. And hopefully they're continually healing. And you watch things like Sean Monahan get that donkey hat that Columbus Blue Jackets are doing, and you just know that people are attributing to Johnny Gaudreau. It's awesome to watch those kind of things, and it's awesome to see the Flames organization just be part of that healing process. So condolences to the Gaudreau family, thoughts and prayers with them as well.
Yeah, I absolutely echo the exact same thing. And yeah, it's been nice to see some of the tributes by Flames players and around the league. Dustin Wolf has him on the back of his mask with some Skittles and purple Gatorade, and Cole Caulfield changes his number to 13, and he's been ripping it up to start this season. And yeah, it's been really like heartwarming to see the whole hockey community come together and rally around the Gaudreau family. And man, I'm with you. And another time, like it was Johnny and Matthew's funeral there, and I saw a clip of Guy and Jane and Johnny's two sisters leaving the church that the funeral was held at, and like Guy could barely stand up. Like his family members had to like literally hold him up because he was weeping so much. And like seeing that was like, it's one of those images you just like can't get out of your head because it's so devastating, and you feel so bad for that family and everyone associated with them. So no, it's been tough, man. It's been a tough, last like 6 weeks to be a Calgary Flames fan. And like I run the social media accounts for Flames Nation, and just putting together like all like the Johnny content. It's just very sad, very upsetting that something that tragic could happen, and so senseless, so avoidable. It just makes you sick to your stomach. But like you said, man, thoughts and prayers go out to the Gaudreau family, and you hope that they're able to heal and continue to move on.
Yeah, well said. Well said there. There is no transition out of that, so I'm not even going to try with one. Before we sign off here, I wanted to give a little bit of love to Justin Kirkland scoring his first National Hockey League goal against the Edmonton Oilers last night. So congratulations to him for his first NHL goal. Robert, anything else that we've missed on the show that you want to dive in before we sign off here? And then obviously make sure you let the folks know where they can find your stuff as well.
No, that's it. I mean, it's been a really fun start to the Flames season. Lots going on. So you just hope that they can continue to put on an entertaining product for the fans this season, and continue to see young guys develop and all that kind of stuff that we already touched on in the episode. So no, I think we're all good. And yeah, you can find my articles at flamesnation.ca and follow me on Twitter for Flames highlights and opinions at Ring of Fire CGY on Twitter/X.
And you can see me at Vintage Johnny 84 on all of your social media platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe to your favorite platform for the show weekly every Tuesday. We are changing the format a little bit if you haven't noticed yet on YouTube. We're now pretty much audio only, which is awesome. It allows us to be more free in our conversations, and we're enjoying it. Let us know in the comments what you think of the Flames start this season. Look forward to connecting with all of you out there. Enjoy the games this week. We got the Blackhawks and Kraken this week. We'll talk about them next week on the show. Be well, and once again, happy Thanksgiving.